Hello, my name is Rick, and this is the Dwarven Fortress of Swampcavern. Welcome to Dwarf Fortress, like a city seen from space. In this episode, I'm going to show the main levels of Swampcavern and talk about why they would be hard to do in Minecraft. Then I'm going to show the fort on the surface and talk about why it is made the way that it is. The title comes from one of my favorite compliments that I ever got about the fortress, from someone I consider to be a pretty good judge of what is cool. I've had some of my biggest fans ask me to finish building the fort underground. While I admire their enthusiasm, there are a number of reasons why that would be hard or basically impossible. To start with, making a perfect recreation is impossible because there's not enough levels going down in the world of Minecraft. There are 3 different cavern layers in Swampcavern. Swampcavern has all these ways to get into them for some reason. Swampcavern's magma forge is many levels above the magma sea. Vertically, there just wouldn't be any way to fit all that in. Also, there's no way to recreate the caverns for one person by hand. They're just way too complicated. That leaves the heart of the fort. For instance, the towers at the top of Swampcavern, the statues themselves are only 7 stories up in the air, where this mushroom room is itself 10 stories tall. The main part of the Fortress of Swampcavern is spread over 10 stories. And part of the reason it would be hard to recreate in Minecraft is because some of it is kind of poorly defined. It just sort of trails off into mining areas. Here you have the lowest level of the mushroom room. Here's what's going on this level. You have the graveyard of the dwarves, a pet cemetery just for pets. You have a noble's personal tomb, a little excess overflow storage because we just couldn't have enough. Here we have a bunch of statues decorating the mushroom room, and here we have a second tavern that was built because the first one seemed not big enough. The second tavern has kind of a balcony arrangement where there's a main floor with some seats and then an upper floor with some private booths for the nobles and then some cheap seats way high up that still have a view of everything. Going up one level from here, this is one of the earliest levels dug in Swampcavern, actually. You have the kitchen area on the left over here with supplies of fresh ingredients being brought in and then finished goods being stored everywhere around the fort. We've actually been living off the stockpiles for some years now. The lower level of the tavern was built very early in the fort's history, and they were dancing there from very early on. It has a view of the mushroom room, which was only built later. The name of the tavern, by the way, is the Friendly Mushroom because, giant mushroom room. I guess there's some confusion. Some people think I found a big chunk of cave and built my fort around that. No, actually, the mushroom room was constructed by me and flooded with water to create mud during the waterfall process. You see a lot of levers all over the place. That's because we have levers that control many different access points to different caves. We have several different main entrances we can open or close off. There is a trade depot entrance that we like to shut in the event of goblin invasions, so they don't try to come in through the trade depot area. Going up one level from here, you have the stone masonry and workshop area, plus the original iron and steel working area, which was all moved down to the magma forges. But you still have the stockpile of pure marble for furniture or fancier things. You have a stockpile of whatever stones we have in the fort. We have two well, we've got craft dwarfs workshops, and we've got two jewelers workshops, one for just cutting and one for just encrusting. Moving this way a little bit, you have Swampcavern's ever popular library, which, as usual, is packed with people. I mean, for instance, there's the Duke of Swampcavern himself discussing rainfall, along with several other people who are often found in the library, including Nurzung, our resident goblin poet and complainer extraordinaire. You've got Jemmy the Miner and Geesper the Scholar also discussing rainfall. On this level, we have some blocks and bar storage, some more storage, some of the first of the bedrooms in the fort. We have the fort's previous library, which just got broken somehow, so we kind of abandoned it. We have a few bedrooms over here. We had some rooms we were setting up in case the king ever joined the fort, which unfortunately, due to things that we did, never happened. The king is stuck in a goblin pit somewhere. Maybe we can rescue him someday. That's possible. On this level, we have some nobles' quarters, some more bedrooms. We have the Hall of Extraordinary People. We have a starting dormitory of the whole fort. We have a meeting hall for dwarves. We have the temple to no particular deity, which is also kind of popular right now. And then we have Swampcavern's attempted art museum, which has gone a bit wrong due to Swampcavern surviving through multiple versions of the game. On this level, we have some of the bedrooms that have a waterfall falling through the hallway that is next to them. So these dwarves are particularly privileged in that they get to see mist all the time and get bathed involuntarily and sometimes harmed by water falling on them. But that hardly ever happens. These lucky few dwarves over here have windows that look out into the mushroom room of the tavern, the Friendly Mushroom. The temple is 2 stories tall, so we can see the second story from here. Clearly there's some animal storage over here. This is where we build the ballistas and catapults. What's this? Artifact adamantine spear? Yeah, just throw that on the stairs. What could it possibly hurt? On this level, you have a bunch more bedrooms, a tiny bit more storage. Again, a few rooms that have a view into the mushroom room. Going up, you have a lot more bedrooms this time. All the bedrooms are up to a certain standard where they tend to have one statue and either a coffer or a chest, sometimes both. On this level, you have a great deal of bolt storage. We have some adamantine goods for trade still left over. Swampcavern had an abundance of adamantine in it. There was a spire that was like 40 stories tall, and the top part was entirely solid. So after making all the armor and weapons they could basically ever want out of adamantine, they made a few precious trade goods that you would normally never do in any other fort. But they have steel and adamantine armor just sitting around in large quantities. This level has the dwarves' clothing production facilities. So a couple leather crafting areas, a couple clothier's workshops, storage for some of that. This is the level with the hospital on it, which has quite a few beds and quite a good storage for materials. We also put in fortifications in case we wanted to march crossbow guys back there and shoot on any werebeasts that happened to be living in the hospital. Lucky for us, it didn't actually come up. So again, more storage, more bedrooms, more view of the mushroom room, another hallway that has waterfall falling through it. Now we've come to Swampcavern's always overflowing corpse stockpile. We brought in plenty of wood from the outside, so hopefully we'd never have to do that again. We have what used to be like the herbivore storage area. We used to let mushrooms grow here, and then we floored it over so that they couldn't. And over here we have kind of an animal training facility area. Swampcavern has a large number of giant cave spiders in it. We have a tamed stray rock, and we're working on a family of giant war tigers. So in the near future, Swampcavern will have more giant war tigers and fewer giant cave spiders, because we're kind of phasing out the spiders because they're not that great. Where on the other hand, we've had a little indication that the giant war tigers can actually do something. So that's going to be fun to play with. So, short answer of why the subterranean parts of Swampcavern would be very difficult to recreate in Minecraft. Swampcavern is, in places, somewhat poorly defined. It has literally hundreds of rooms. We have more than 200 dwarves, and they almost all insist on having their own bedrooms. So that's why I'm not going to be building Swampcavern in Minecraft, the underground portions, anytime soon, unless I got way more views on my videos or comments that people actually wanted to see that. I might, however, make the interior of the tavern, because that wouldn't be an undoable project. You'd have to imitate the mushrooms somehow. I was thinking in Minecraft you'd just use various colors of wall, and you could map the trees level for level and then sort of recreate them. And I don't know, that might look pretty cool. I'm not sure I've ever properly explained what's going on in the tavern, The Friendly Mushroom, so I'm going to take a crack at it right now. It's not really easy to see in either Dwarf Fortress mode or even Armok Vision, just because different things are on different levels. For instance, the bottom of the Friendly Mushroom is actually this pit here that has these sort of pedestal things that has the statues on them, and kind of these towers rising up out of the floor by one floor. So these statues are on the same level that the tavern floor here is, as well as these pedestals out here, where this floor is actually one floor above them. So people sitting here can easily look down on these statues just by looking down slightly. The tavern is absolutely filled with the many artifacts the fort has made over the years. Here's an artifact floodgate, an artifact cabinet. They are actually storing mugs and musical instruments in these chests, which just blows me away, because that's what they're supposed to be doing. Swampcavern has a couple of statues that are particularly, I guess, treasured by me because they are particularly unique in their own way. For instance, this one here is a bronze sculpture of forgotten beasts, which was made by an unknown artisan. And I'm sure there are some players who know what it takes to get a bronze statue created by unknown artisans. But I don't think everyone who plays Dwarf Fortress ever get to see, I mean, not everyone gets to see one, is the point I'm trying to make. And also, there's another one I really quite like. This statue here, it's a statue of a forgotten beast, but it's a statue of a forgotten beast killing another forgotten beast in the Swampcavern. And we didn't tell them to make this statue. I just said, make me some gold statues. And they said, well, what do you want us to make? And I said, oh, whatever's on your mind. So they made a statue of a dwarf and a forgotten beast killing another forgotten beast. And you can tell we didn't order this statue particularly because it doesn't have that little credit thing ordered by the government of Swampcavern in the year whatever at the end of it. It just says one forgotten beast killed another one, and it happens in the year 128. These tables and chairs are set up so that anyone dining at them will automatically see the waterfall that's going on around them. And they're on 2 levels. So if you eat in this tavern, there's a good chance you will see the waterfall. And it works, because if you look at the people's thoughts, they all say, I saw a waterfall recently. Here's how the waterfall works. Up here on the surface, over by the river, there's a connection where it sort of flows backwards into this connecting hallway, which keeps too much water from getting pulled in at once. So the river does actually keep going rather than having half the river or more drain through Swampcavern. And from here it goes down a level to a place where it splits. And that place is right here. And then it goes down another level where it splits once more. And let's see. From there, it falls through these channels, and it goes through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 levels of Swampcavern, where the lucky people who have bedrooms by it get to see the waterfall. And then it falls through the tavern several floors. And then there's some grates down here in case things fall down here, pets go down there, people chuck their shirts down there. Oh, why do you do that? But they can reclaim them. There's stairs. In fact, this part of the tavern is sort of the shortcut to the other tavern. There is perfectly good hallways and stairs that go to the other tavern, but since this is a shortcut, this is mostly the way they go. From here, the water flows down another level for safety reasons by the well level of the fort, and then it gets channeled off screen over to here, and over here the water backs up a little more deep than I would like, but by the time it gets over to here it's rather shallow, and effectively it is making it off the screen. It's more of it is getting away than evaporates probably. And this wall here is because that didn't used to be the case. The problem is the too wide hallway was conducting the water away in such a way that it was evaporating almost as much as it was leaving the screen, which was causing a certain amount of frames per second drop in the fort. And here's an interesting thing I've discovered about the waterfall in Swampcavern. It's really not hurting the FPS very much. For falling through those 5 levels, it only changes the game slightly compared to if it was falling through open space. So yes, waterfalls are always a drag on FPS. This one is about 3. In other words, I really wouldn't reclaim much if I turned it off, so I saw no point and I turned it back on again, and it's been running ever since. One last point about the Tavern, the Friendly Mushroom. Although the walls of the back part of the room are 10 stories tall, none of the mushrooms in there are yet. So apparently it takes more than 20 years for giant mushroom trees to grow to their full height. Because I've seen some, I'm pretty sure that were 10 stories tall, but none of these ones are, which makes me wonder, how long does it take a giant mushroom tree to grow? Because apparently the answer is more than 20 years. I'm sure some of my viewers are wondering, what are some of these things, such as why would there be a chain in your tavern? And the answer for that is it's a artifact chain, as these are gear mechanisms, but there's artifact gears in them that I quite liked and I wanted the dwarves to see. Or there's a wall grate on the wall for no reason other than it's an artifact for them to look at. Now let's jump to the surface of the fort and take a look at what's been going on there. Swampcavern is surrounded by small lakes and ponds, the very last of which have now all been floored over in a monumental project that took years, especially because it was sort of an on-again, off-again project. Sometimes we quit doing it for long stretches of time. This last little bit of corner was the last one to get done. Here we have sort of a fortification area where we had a large number of cage traps where we kept giant cave spiders, and when the goblins came along, we got into a giant fight with them and unleashed many giant cave spiders on the goblins. And it actually worked in large numbers. Giant cave spiders actually do something. They will spray webs, they will bite and envenom things. But maybe it takes those large numbers, or maybe they just have to be motivated properly. Anyway, here's the lower level of Swampcavern. The bottom level is 2 blocks thick in an attempt to keep people from teleporting in or outside during combat, whether it's from practicing here in the barracks to find around the center chest, or whether it's from a fight that was happening outside. 2 blocks thick isn't really enough to stop that teleporting effect, unfortunately. I'm not sure 5 would be, or what exactly it would take to do it. As seen in Minecraft, here's the Archery Range, which in their world appears to be quite a bit bigger, and it just makes more sense when they're doing it. Here are the various plants we saw in Minecraft. I can't help but wonder if the villagers haven't taken out some of these things by now, in the Minecraft version, that is. Going up one level, we see the fortifications of Swampcavern, which were not meant to be decorative. All the way around there's fortifications, so if there's anywhere we need to fire a bolt from a crossbow, we'd be able to do it. Part of the thinking with Swampcavern was, if we ever wanted to, we could just leave this front door open and station the army back here, and any opponents would be shot by crossbow guys on the way in. Then they would come to the central area here and get shot by the same crossbow guys from the inside of this fort. Meanwhile, these crossbow guys, if they wanted to run in to here and bash something with their crossbows, they couldn't. Not unless they went down these stairs more, and found a longer, more complicated way around to the central stairs of the fort over here. So just to keep them more tempted to keep using their crossbows. And it's always worked pretty good, by the way. This part right here doesn't have fortifications because the whole idea of this farm area in here was that that's where the military would be standing in the event of invasion, to keep the most overeager of soldiers from running out and getting into the fight by themselves too early. So I never intended for the crossbow guys to shoot at my own military in here, and that's why this is just a wall. And this area is all roofed over, so again, the crossbow guys really have very few options. It really encourages them to actually use their crossbows. We have various stairs going up into the towers of Swampcavern. And the towers are mostly decorative, although these ones on the right-hand sides, the fortifications actually did get used sometimes because Swampcavern is home to the giant monsters. So giant flies, giant mosquitoes, giant wrens would fly back and forth over here and scare the fort and bother our guys. Sometimes I'd send one team over here, one team over there to deal with them. Sometimes I'd send one crossbow team here and send one to the ground to deal with them. And it worked pretty good because this is sort of a north-south migration pattern for those things. However, Swampcavern has the distinctive look it does because these are fortifications and these are walls. And that was chosen purely for looks because I knew the way it would look from the outside of the fort, that there would be kind of a fortification area here and kind of a wall there. Going up a level from here is the level with the statues on it, and there's no stairs or any way for the dwarves to get up here anymore. There's no need for them to. So I let the dwarves decide for themselves what they wanted the statues that decorated the top of their fortress would be, and they said that they didn't have terribly much imagination. So they made the statue of dwarves, and a statue of dwarves, and a statue of dwarves, and dwarves, and more dwarves, some more dwarves. Oh, Aquaman, actually founding member of the fort. Oh, that's different. Back to dwarves. You're never going to guess what this one is. Oh, surprise, militia captain. So, what else you got? Statue of a dwarf. Statue of dwarf. Oh, Crow Girl, another militia captain, also the fortress's most mighty champion and possibly the most formidable dwarf fighter I've ever seen. That's a good one. Oh, dwarves. Aquaman again. Hey, he helped found the fort. Maybe put in a word with the committee. Let's see, isn't there even like one forgotten beast or anything? Really? No. You may notice that although Swampcavern was once a swamp, it has become a thickly forested area. Although there's this weird patchy chunk taken out of the trees over here. And that's because we've been blowing them up with a ballista. For one thing, it turns out trees blown up with a ballista don't count against your agreement with the elves. And for another, we are having a slight problem with branches collapsing due to a forest fire caused by a dragon. Although this looks like the only entrance to Swampcavern, it's really not. This is a broad front door we can let a lot of people in and out very quickly with, or we can slam it shut because it's a combination of a drawbridge and some doors we can lock. So for instance, if I don't want any idiots getting crushed by the drawbridge and I'm about to raise it, I can lock all the doors and the dwarves will know they're locked and know they can't go this way, and so they will go some other way. And those other ways are, here's the original entrance to Swampcavern, complete with a little guard animal, a giant cave spider, along with kind of a trench on one side opposite this series of fortifications over here, and some a few, nothing crazy with the cage traps, but just a few to slow down the first of any invaders who might wander into the very entrance of the fort. And then this is the new main entrance to the fort. On the left-hand side over here, it features again, a fortification area that can fire down this hallway, but also two ballistas, which could be manned by a team of blind. They were former military teams, but they had an incident with deadly dust, and now they're all blind. So hopefully when they're firing their ballistas, nothing will frighten them, even though this is not so terribly far away. We also have a stray hostile giant cave spider in a cage, just ready for this drawbridge to be dropped so that it can spray webs on anything hostile in here. Part of the idea with that is if ever there was some kind of super mega beast that attacked the fort, we would close every other entrance, leave this one open, and then try to hit it with the spider. So even something fantastic and amazing could be caught in one of these cage traps, because cage traps with a spider web on them can catch things that normally can't be caught that way. In practice, unfortunately, it's been rather common for us to have a few civilians on the surface who are trying to desperately make it into the entrances. And so very often we leave most of them wide open, and the goblins can just come in whatever way they want, and we'll just fight them when they get close. And in smaller invasions, they barely get up to the fort before they've been shot to pieces by the crossbow guys, and there's not so much left for the army to fight. In larger invasions, the goblins' one trick they know is to run up to the fort so that the people on the second level can't shoot them on the first level. The place where that badly backfires for them is usually we have such quantities and volleys of crossbow fire from the fort that very few goblins live to survive that tactic and make it around the corner and go in the front entrance. So, the fortifications in Swampcavern have been extremely effective. Also, I'd just like to point out that having these simply enormous trees outside of Swampcavern is completely accurate. These trees really are as tall as the fort or taller. While I'm pointing things out, the things surrounding these statues aren't fortifications. They're just walls. They just kind of look like what we expect fortifications would on top of a castle, and that's why I used them the way I did. If you enjoyed this Dwarf Fortress content, please like, comment, or subscribe. If you want to be notified when new videos come out, you have to hit that little bell icon by the subscribe button. If you think I should try to build all or some of Swampcavern, be sure to leave a comment letting me know. If you think it's funny, say random gibberish that doesn't make any sense in the comments. Also, some boxes are about to appear on the screen. You should click on them. Click on the little boxes. Look how cute they are. Do it. Do it. You know you want to. Thanks for watching.